By now, everyone has heard the tapes from Donald Trump. By now, everybody has heard Donald Trump try to coerce the Secretary of State of Georgia into giving him votes to cause a win of the state. Of course, it's not going to happen. But interestingly, Stacey Abrams appeared on This Week. And again, this has been put out there by the mainstream media several times because they have given traction to what Republicans have said. Hey, Donald Trump has the right to contest these elections, just like Stacey Abrams contested her gubernatorial run in 2018. But, that is where false equivalents have caused Americans to think the plausibility of what Donald Trump is doing is, it's possible, it's okay, And the reason they do that is for some reason our mainstream media cannot differentiate between what's true, what's false, cannot differentiate between what's a false equivalence and what should not even been given traction. I want you to listen to Stacey, how she handled it. And I think, in effect, she made the host look small for trying that false equivalence, for trying to equate Donald Trump's refusal to accept that he's a loser, as opposed to her who said, I am acquiescent to what the vote says, but we know there were some issues that caused. And I'll read you some snippets from an Atlantic article that makes the case.
You know that some Republicans are arguing that President Trump's efforts to undermine the election are no different than yours in 2018, where you did not concede the gubernatorial race. I know you say that is different, it's different circumstances, but are you concerned about that reputation?
Well, it's not simply different circumstances, it's apples and, bowling balls. I pointed out that there were a series of actions taken that impeded the ability of voters to cast their ballots. And in almost every one of those circumstances, the courts agreed, as did the state legislature. We saw the evisceration of exact match. We saw a consent decree to make certain that people could vote by absentee without having their ballots discarded. We saw an expansion of training and an investment in local polling places so people had the ability to go and cast their ballots. We saw a reduction of lines from 8 to 10 hours to 30 minutes, 2 hours. These are all things we proved both in court and we saw remedies to. By contrast, President Trump has lost every single one of his challenges in the state of Georgia, and he has no evidence. In fact, an audit, the fourth, I think, of this election, found that there was zero fraud in our signature match process. One person inadvertently signed for her husband against the rules, but otherwise...
It is important for those in the mainstream media not to fall for what the other side is attempting to do, create a false sense of a false narrative. And that is exactly what the host did here. Do you feel, they're asking her if she feels that somehow differently that she should not have challenged Kemp's win in Georgia. And she pointed out straight out, it's between apples and bowling balls. Look, these people are not dumb. She won in court. She also, while Donald Trump lost completely in court, she got remedies. While given that Donald Trump lost completely in court, there were no remedies for Donald Trump. In other words, she proved there was voter suppression. Donald Trump was attempting to prove voter fraud that didn't exist. But let's digress. There was voter fraud. It simply was on his side. It simply was there were people attempting to vote several times for Donald Trump. That is a fraud that has been found thus far. Look, Brian Kemp's, this was the title of the article soon after that election in 2018. Brian Kemp's lead in Georgia needs an asterisk. If the governor's race had taken place in another country, the State Department would have questioned its legitimacy. Why? The Democrat Stacey Abrams, a black woman, made a valiant effort to win the governor's race in Georgia, one of the original 13 states whose commitment to human bondage ensured that the U.S. Constitution would treat slavery with kid gloves. At state that was part of the Confederacy, a state scorched by Union General William Tecumseh Sherman in Civil War, a state that refused to accept the outcome of the war, treating the black residents as second-class citizens, if that, until the federal government forced its hand a century later with the Voting Rights Act. She tried to write a new narrative for the state. Although Abrams has not yet conceded at the time of this article, on counted ballots, it looks as though the other side has won and the narrative is the same as ever. Abrams didn't have to fight just an electoral campaign. She had to fight a civil rights campaign against the forces of voter suppression. Indeed, I can't bring myself to say that Abrams lost because there is an asterisk next to the Republicans' opponent victory. Remember, this man was the Secretary of State as he ran for governor, meaning he controlled the election as he also ran for governor. Former President Jimmy Carter, a Georgian with much experience monitoring elections abroad, stressed that this conflict of interest ran counter to the most fundamental principles of democratic elections, that the electoral process be managed by an independent and impartial election authority. Kemp had no intention of relinquishing power. He all along claimed voter fraud, just like Donald Trump claiming voter fraud. Now, he won. It wasn't voter fraud. There was voter suppression. And again, Stacey Abrams, everything that she brought to court turned into remedies to prevent or to attempt to prevent some of these voter suppression irregularities. So don't be fooled by the mainstream media when they attempt to create false equivalences. I don't know why. They're the fourth estate. They're there to give the truth. But you know what, folks? We now have independent media to refute or to explain or to make more aware the realities, as opposed to what many times are the things that give the, let's say, the Trump people the reason to have the doubts that they have. It's not the Trump people's fault. It's that we have allowed our mainstream media, we have allowed a media to be used by those who would do wrong. We spend a lot of time deconstructing the news, trying to parse it into a form that everybody can understand. We try to find those little nitpicks where it flies above the fray, etc. If you really like these videos that we do, I want to ask a big favor. Please go ahead, number one, subscribe to our channel, and number two, please join if you can. Thank you so kindly for watching. Keep watching. Please remember to share. We must populate the entire internet with our progressive message, a message that we know is what most Americans say that they want. So help us, please join.